Why, hello there YouTube and welcome to a top 10 video. Like I say, I want to at least try and do a top 10 once a month at least on this channel. That's all horror related. And I thought, as I've watched and reviewed all the Hellraiser movies, why not rank all the films up in a top 10? And as there are 10 films in this franchise, there will be no honourable mentions. So, let's get going. At number 10, it is Hellraiser Revelations. When a group of brothers, two brothers, discover the Lament configuration, they soon get more than what they bargained for in their deepest desires. They summon Pinhead and the Cenobites and cause all hell on them, and also uncovering some revelations along the way. I went into this film expecting it to not be brilliant, and my god, it was not. It was crap. It was the worst. It really was. I just did not like this. And should it come to any surprise to anyone at all? No. Even the guy they get for Pinhead, he doesn't even look remotely like Doug Bradley. He just looks like a cosplayer more than anything else. At number 9 is Hellraiser Inferno. When a journalist or a detective or whatever is investigating a series of crimes, he comes across the Lament configuration and summons the Cenobites, where he has his soul torn apart. This one, I just thought it was boring. You know, I really did. I thought it was boring, and I can't remember much about it. You know, it's just... yeah. Like I said, I have a vivid memory of it. I mean, I did watch it, and I remember it being boring and focusing on one guy, and we didn't even see Pinhead till like the climax. But that's the thing though with this franchise. I think after the third film it became an anthology series that focused around the Lament configuration. Anyway, at number 8 is Hellraiser Tellseeker. Kirsty Cotton makes a deal with Pinhead, 6 souls in exchange for hers. But throughout the film, we see that her husband, who was an abusive person, is gradually killing 5 people, and then eventually getting Pinhead summoned and taking his. Now, I don't remember much of this one. I do remember that it had the return of Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty Cotton for the first time since the second film, and yeah, like I say, it being a bit of a slow burn and not in a good way, you know, and I can't remember much about it. So, at number 7, Hellraiser Deader. When a journalist investigates a cult that kill themselves, she soon finds that they all had worshipped the Lament configuration and all came back from the dead until Pinhead is summoned once again to collect what he owns. This one, I remember it being a little better, but not too brilliant. I mean, it was okay. Doug Bradley was great in his screen time that he had, but yeah, this one I think got shelved as well for a few years and didn't come out around 2005, and in that year we got 2 films that came out from the Hellraiser saga. Yeah, so Hellraiser Deader. At number 6 is Hellraiser Judgment. When detectives are investigating a series of murders, they soon find the Lament configuration and then have the Cenobites and Pinhead summoned once more. They even have a Cenobite named the Auditor who gets people's sins and confessions and have them face judgment. And Pinhead even summons a Hell Princess and rips her to shreds and then faces the judgment of his own. This one, I don't think it was as good as all the others that I've got ranked on this list, but I remember it was an improvement. I think, you know, it was a brief. I'd accept it as an apology for the last film that they made, because they only made Revelations to obtain the rights from Clive Barker getting them back. But the actor they got for Pinhead, without makeup, he doesn't look remotely like Doug Bradley, but in makeup, he looks very similar. And if I'd not known that it wasn't Doug Bradley, I might not have known the difference. I probably would have, but hey, they got a better actor to play Pinhead in this one at least. At number 5, Hellraiser Hellworld. This eighth film, the eighth film follows a group of students that win an invitation to this house party after completing a game called Hellworld based on the Cenobites. And the whole party is hosted by a man known only as the host, played by Lance Henriksen. But when the whole thing discovers that it's a drug trip and the students are killed, he goes on the run, only to find the lament configuration in his pocket and the Cenobites summoned, where he gets his comeuppance. Now this one, I actually thought was surprisingly good. Lance Henriksen's pretty much good in anything he's in, and he stole the show in his scenes, and this even had a young pre-Superman Henry Cavill in for this one. I also enjoyed the whole twist. It made me think that this is a film that isn't in the Hellraiser universe, but the Hellraiser universe is fictionalized. But then, how they do change the boundaries at the end in that finale, and I liked that twist in there. I really did. So, yes, number 5, Hellraiser Hellworld. At number 4 is Hellraiser Bloodline. Set in the far future in space, a descendant from a bloodline of people that believed to have constructed the lament configuration, the puzzle box. He tells his story of his ancestors from early as the 18th century France to a toy maker that built the box, then going all the way down to the 1990s and then to the far future, where we see more Cenobites, including the return of Pinhead. Now, taking Hellraiser into space is a very ballsy move. I mean, it didn't work with Leprechaun, it as hell did not work with Jason X, but I thought it was still a good one. I like the segments more than anything else. The segments of the flashbacks that this guy goes through telling us, like his family past, and the finale of how it just sets things in motion to have no more Hellraiser movies made. I mean, that wasn't the end of the Hellraiser movies. This serves as both a sequel and a prequel to the franchise. So yes, number 4, Hellraiser Bloodlines. At number 3 is Hellraiser Hell on Earth. So, a club owner named Monroe purchases the pillar from the previous film after the whole events of Hellbound Hellraiser 2, where he then awakens Pinhead and starts to feed him flesh and blood as he grows strong. Eventually, Pinhead, going against his word, converts as many people as he can in his nightclub called the Boiler Room, making many Cenobites. And of course, this one was was a fun film. It probably was the last film before the franchise started to deteriorate. This one, I know it having a great score, great soundtrack from Motorhead, and I do love the scenes where what's her name, the final girl, is running through New York with the puzzle box in her hand, and running from the Cenobites in New York whilst they're slowly following behind, and Pinhead just having a blast. At number 2 is Hellraiser. Yes, the first installment of the franchise. So Frank Cotton discovers that he can find his greatest pleasure in the puzzle box, but soon summons the Cenobites that rip his soul apart. Upon moving into his abandoned house and Frank going missing, his brother Larry and his wife Julia, who Frank was having an affair with, soon finds that just by the drip of blood Frank is resurrected. Then Julia starts feeding Frank men and humans and sacrifices so that he can grow strong and regenerate again. But of course his niece and Julia's stepdaughter Kirsty summons the Cenobites and says that they can take them to Frank, where they can take his soul and not hers. But Pinhead warns her that if she doesn't own up, they'll tear her soul apart. This one was the first film in the franchise, and I have to say Clive Barker did a great job adapting his own graphic novel into this movie adaptation, and Pinhead wasn't even credited as Pinhead in this. Doug Bradley was credited as the priest, because that's what Pinhead is. He's a hell priest. And we have the other Cenobites in there, like Chatterteeth, Female, and Butterball Cenobites in there. And yeah, I thought they were, a great group of evil ones. And Pinhead isn't even in it that long. Like Bronco Juggalo said in his ranking, Pinhead had probably a grand total of possibly 5 minutes of screen time, and in those 5 minutes he did become a horror icon, and I gotta agree with that. He really did. But now it's time for our number one pick. And number one is Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. When this psychiatrist hears about the puzzle box and the mattress of which Julia was killed on, he then breaks out one of his patients and gets him to kill himself and summons Julia, where Julia shows him the Cenobite's realm. Also, Kirsty Cotton finds a young woman who's also good at cracking puzzles, and they too enter the hell dimension that is the Cenobite's realm. There, the Cenobites are returned and try and get Kirsty's soul. But then a new Cenobite is made out of the doctor psychiatrist guy, who then takes the Cenobites, and only Kirsty can stop him. At the end, everything seems to be at peace, but of course, not all is at peace when the pillar from hell descends, and our final words is a face on the pillar, including many of the Cenobites, and the face of the Asian guy saying, "What is your pleasure, sir?" This one, I think, continued the first Hellraiser film quite nicely. I really enjoyed it, and I like that we got to see the Cenobites realm, and that the Cenobites, including Pinhead, got more screen time in this one. And, all was a great performance, and we got a little bit of origin into the Cenobites, that they were once people but embraced the torture and suffering which became pleasurable to them. But I didn't like, the only bit I didn't really like was how the Cenobites got killed so easily in the film by the new Cenobite doctor guy. But still, it was a decent sequel, and to me, up to now, because my opinions change so much around ranking franchises, but up to now, this one in the franchise for the time being is my number one pick. And all this has been my personal opinion. So, let me know down in the comments below. Do you agree with this list? And if you like this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and to share with your friends. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already and to hit that notification bell. All of my social media links are down below in the description, so you can check all that out. And yeah, if you're new here, do feel free to subscribe. No pressure, but yeah, so that's been my top 10 Hellraiser movies. So, until next time, don't have nightmares.